Question of the day. Did the person who said money can't buy happiness lie? It depends. So can money help buy happiness? The answer is yes. Used wisely, it can. Whether rich or poor, people make choices about how they spend money, and those choices can boost happiness or undermine it. It's a mistake to assume that money will affect everyone the same way. No statistical average could show how a particular individual will be affected by money, depending on the individual's circumstances and temperament, right? After a lot of thinking, I identified 3 factors that shape the significance of money to individuals. And this is really interesting. She says it depends on what kind of person you are. Money has a different value to different people. You might love to collect modern art. You might love to rent old movies. You might have 6 children and ailing dependent parents, or you might have no children and robust parents. You might love to travel, or you might prefer to putter around the house. You might care about eating organic, or you might be satisfied with the cheapest options at the grocery store. So she's talking about how it depends on who you are and what you value, what role money will play and to what extent in your life. And then it depends on how you spend your money. Some purchases are more likely to contribute to your happiness than others. You might buy cocaine, or you might buy a dog. You might splurge on a big TV, or you might splurge on a new bike. It depends on how much money you have relative to the people around you and relative to your own experience. So one person's fortune is another person's misfortune. Now I'm going to read a little bit more because I thought that the section was so interesting. She says, developing and applying a 3-factor test brought back pleasant memories of being a law student, and it was helpful framework, but it was complex. I wanted a more cogent way to convey the relationship between money and happiness. As I was mulling over one afternoon, I picked up Eleanor the wrong way as I leaned over her crib, and the next morning I woke up with agonizing back pain. Stick with me. For almost a month, I couldn't sit for long. I found it hard to type. I had trouble sleeping, and of course, I couldn't stop picking up Eleanor, so I kept re-aggravating the injury. This, I'm going to foreshadow. We've talked about this before, where I say, if you have back pain, the only thing you're worried about is that back pain. But when you are in perfect health, having a great day, you're not like stopping to be like, oh, thank God I don't have back pain today, right? You should go see a physical therapist, urged my father-in-law, who had suffered from back problems for years. There's a lot they can do. I'm sure it'll get better on its own, I kept insisting. One night, as I struggled to turn over in bed, I thought, ask for help. Bob says that physical therapy works. Why am I resisting? Called Bob at work, got the information, made an appointment at the physical therapist's office, and 2 visits later, I was 100% better. Felt like a miracle. And one day after my pain was gone, I took my health for granted once again, and I had an epiphany of the back spasm. Money doesn't buy happiness the way good health doesn't buy happiness. So when money or health is a problem, you think of little else. When it's not a problem, you don't think much about it. So when you don't have money problems, you're living your life and you're experiencing life, and you have other problems, but money isn't one of them. When you don't have health problems, you're experiencing life, you're loving life. You have other problems, maybe money is one of them, but health is not, right? So I think even that, when we hear, because a lot of times it can sound really tone deaf when people with lots of money will say, well, yeah, money isn't everything. Money doesn't make you happy. And you're this person that's living on next to nothing, and you just wish you had $20,000 so you could take a week off, not even to go on vacation, but just to rest because you're working 3 jobs and money is everything to you, right? So it's a very relative thing. So then she says, both money and health contribute to happiness, mostly in the negative. The lack of them brings much more unhappiness than possessing them brings happiness. So when you have poor health, when you have little to no money, you are unhappy because those are stressful situations to be in. But when you have an abundance of money, when you have good health, you're not really as concerned about those things because they're not really a problem for you, right? So it's almost like a spectrum of experience, and it's not really something that you can say across the board. I would argue to say that money makes it easier to be happy because a lot of the things, even the simple things that we want to do, like if you want to go as a mother and go sit in the park by yourself for a couple of hours and you don't have help with your children, girl, you got to pay a babysitter about $20 an hour. So a little money might make you happy in the moment, right? But it's not to paint the picture that if you have a bunch of money, you're going to be happy. It's just saying that when you have more resources to do something, happiness, be happy, experience life, it's a lot easier. Just like if you have more resources to start a business, if you have an abundance of money from which you can start a business, it's easier for you to think about the creativity and to get the tools that you need for that business than if you have nothing and you're trying to start a business and build yourself up from nothing. You can still do it, because where there's a will, there's a way, and where God is there, you can do things, right? But at the same time, we can't negate the fact that the experience is going to be a lot harder for somebody who doesn't have the resources. Being healthy doesn't guarantee happiness. Lots of healthy people are unhappy. Many of them squander their health to take it for granted. In fact, some people might even be better off with some physical limitation that will prevent them from making destructive choices. She says, I once went on vacation with a group that included the most wild and reckless guy I've ever met, and I was quite relieved when he broke his foot during the early escapade because the mishap preventing him from getting into much more mischief. Ditto, money. But the fact that good health doesn't guarantee happiness doesn't mean that good health doesn't matter to happiness. Similarly, money. Used wisely, each can contribute greatly to happiness. The first splendid truth holds that to think about happiness, we should think about feeling good, feeling bad, feeling right, in an atmosphere of growth. Money is most important for happiness in the feeling bad category. People's biggest worries include financial anxiety, health concerns, job insecurity, and having to do tiring and boring chores. Spent correctly, money can go a long way to solving these problems. I was extremely fortunate to be in a position where money wasn't a source of feeling bad. We had plenty of money to do what we wanted, even enough to feel secure, the toughest and most precious thing for money to buy. I resolved to do a better job of spending money in ways that could boost my happiness by supporting the other three elements of happiness. And I think that this is so important that we talk about this, because oftentimes when we say that money can't buy happiness, we're not even looking to specific experiences. We're just saying in general, oh, people can have money and still be unhappy. Yes, that is true. But it is easier to have good health, like she said. It is easier to have access to money than it is to not have those things. So I think that even people who glamorize and spend most of their time idolizing money, it's coming from that source of hurt and realizing how hard of an experience life can be without. So I wouldn't say that it's tone deaf to say that money doesn't buy happiness, but I would say that to some degree we have to recognize that it does establish a certain baseline that can't be there without money. So there's a certain level of existence of stress-free and normalcy and not having anxiety that exists when you have money. But then when you don't have it, whatever life problems you have are exacerbated by the fact that you also don't have money, because it is very difficult to live in our society without having that as a resource, right? So I wouldn't say that the person who said money can't buy happiness lied. I think it just depends on the situation. And it also works to know that we're not saying that money purchases happiness and makes you happy. We're just saying that not having money can contribute to making you unhappier.